I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I
am California of the past.
My name is Master Takano. I'm a Nisei, a second-generation Japanese American. I was born and raised in Alameda, California, with two older sisters when World War II broke out. I was 9 years old. I knew very little of discrimination or prejudice because I was either naive or brought up in a small town with Japanese, some Chinese, and Caucasian schoolmates. The latter were probably as naive as I was. You might say I lived in a sheltered life, though we knew certain restaurants were off limits to Japanese, as was Alameda's famed Neptune Beach, the so-called Coney Island of the Bay Area. A few days after Pearl Harbor, my life was drastically impacted. The older Caucasian school children would make snide remarks, calling us Japs, while our Chinese schoolmates wore handmade signs saying, "I am Chinese," and would not associate with us. As I recall, we, the Japanese, were put on curfew, restricted to our homes after 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening. We then heard of, by telephone, Mr. So-and-so being picked up by the FBI and taken to places no one knew. Every day we heard of some other leaders in the Japanese community being taken away. We were in constant fear as my father was a leader in the community, especially in church activities. There was a black car parked in front of our house every night, whom we assumed were FBI agents waiting to take our father away. Fortunately, they didn't. One Saturday afternoon, I went to the parsonage of our church to visit with my friend, only to see the FBI agents taking away his father, who was the minister. He was leaving his pregnant wife and 4 children who were all crying. The eldest was a 12-year-old daughter. I will never forget that scene. Incidentally, he was reunited with his family almost 3 years later in the concentration camp where his family was incarcerated. We were forced to leave Alameda in February 1942 because the U.S. Naval Base was based there. And rather than moving to a local city, for instance in Oakland, Berkeley, Albany, as many Alamedans did, my father decided to move the family to an agricultural area near Turlock, hoping that we would not be forced to move again. School again was a traumatic experience. 3 classes in one room. I was a 4th grader, but promoted into the 5th grade as my education was a bit higher than their 4th grade level. In April, it was a godsend for me to be relocated again to Merced and placed into an assembly center with hundreds of other Japanese. In August, we were boarded on trains with closed curtains and transported to the Amache Relocation Center, a concentration camp. I was now 10 years old, and my experience was almost like a holiday. No chores, or very little. School was unusual. The instructors were a hit and miss, with the exception of a few very good teachers. Now, what educated, decent teacher would uproot himself or herself and come to a dust bowl to teach Japanese students with minimal teaching tools, questionable housing, and food accommodations? Either very dedicated instructors or... In the latter part of September 1945, our family returned to Alameda, where my last memories of school were not happy ones. I entered school as a freshman, and fellow students knew immediately I was Japanese and treated me as such. The nicer ones just ignored me or tolerated me. With little or no Japanese friends, I was constantly chased home from school. My only thought during the last period every day was, which exit do I take out of school to avoid the chase home? After a few months, there were enough Japanese students enrolled, which made school a bit more palatable. No more being chased home. Needless to say, my first year was a year of struggles. All the years of camp life had taken its toll, not only in my education, but trying to fit into a school where I was not only a minority now, but mostly a disliked or tolerated one.